The Buffalo Bills have made a surprising move that will have major impacts on the season. They announced yesterday that linebacker and NFL veteran Von Miller has been cut from the team. My name is Maeve Miller. I'm a member of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to the Bills Digest YouTube channel for all the latest updates. So first, I just want to talk a little bit about Von Miller's career because he is just very famous in the league and very well known for being a very strong defensive player. In 2011, he was drafted to the Denver Broncos, where they ended up winning a Super Bowl, and he actually was the Super Bowl MVP. He was later drafted to the Rams after 10 years on the Broncos. So in 2021, he was drafted to the Rams, where he also won a Super Bowl. And then in 2022, he was drafted to the Buffalo Bills. And during his career, like I said, he was Super Bowl MVP, 8-time Pro Bowler, 3 times he was a first-team All-Pro. He was Defensive Rookie of the Year, the Broncos franchise sack leader. He had over 100 sacks, so just such impressive numbers that he put up. And when the Bills drafted him, it was very exciting. Even though he obviously was not in the peak of his career, he still made a very strong impact on the team. And then just a little bit of his stats since joining the Bills. In 2022, he started in all the games he played, 21 total tackles, with 10 of those being for a loss. He had 8 sacks and 1 forced fumble. But at the end of the season, he did face an ACL injury and missed the last 4 games of the season, which is very tough to come back. Like at any age, it's a very tough injury to endure. But especially as he was in his older 30s, this was very tough for him. And he ended up missing. He came back in the 5th game of the season in 2023. He played in 12 games but did not start in any of them. He only had 3 tackles, and we can just see these numbers took a really deep decline. And it's also important to note in this year he did have a 4-game suspension for violating a very serious NFL conduct policy that related to assault. And I just think that this, coupled with the injury, put a big stain on his career. And it had people kind of like having their doubts about him as a person, as a player, because obviously this was like a very serious thing that he did. But in 2024, his stats definitely increased. He played in 13 games. He had 17 total tackles, 7 of those for a loss, and 6 sacks. And he did a very notable play in the playoffs, which I thought was one of the best plays of the playoffs, which was he stripped the ball from Lamar Jackson and forced that fumble, and the Bills went on to score, which was a major, turn the tide a lot in that game. So as I said, the numbers did decrease and then increase again, but he still is making like big plays like this, like what he was been known for. And next, I just kind of want to talk about just some factors that went into the Bills' decision. One of those I would definitely say is his age. He's turning 36 in March. And as you get older, like players definitely, their stats do decline. It's not an uncommon thing. And as I said, the injury and the suspension just had him not playing as much and not playing as well. And it was nice to see his numbers still increase this year, but just compared to Broncos years and Rams years, they've definitely been decreasing. But as I said, like that does make sense. He's 35 years old and playing at a position that is very intense and you need to be quick on your feet. But like in plays like the Ravens game, like you see that fire come out of him, and it's just nice to see because the Bills are paying him a lot. Which leads us into the next question, which is the Bills' salary cap issues. I've talked about this a lot. This has been a big problem for the Bills. It's been a lot in the news, like they had to make a major cut like this, or maybe even multiple. So the Bills saved $8.4 million in salary cap space, which is just a ton of money. And Von Miller was due a $17 million in 2025, and people just thought that for the stats that he was having, he should not be getting paid that much. And he did survive like last year's like big defensive cuts where Bills were cutting veterans like Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer, and a lot of people were surprised to see him still on the team. But obviously things could still happen this year, and people have been talking about like what the future of the Bills could look like and what the future with if he's going to join another team. So lastly, I just want to talk about how will this impact the Bills' future. So there's been a lot on social media right now just about people's reactions and what they think Von Miller could do in the future. So this was a poll that was put out. It says, does Von Miller still have anything left in the tank? And it was pretty even, but 51% said yes and 48% said no. And this comes at a time in his career where he is getting older and aging, and people are wondering whether he still has the talent or even the motivation to play on a different team. But the Bills also still could sign him. I don't think people will be too happy about that because I was scrolling out through Twitter just to see what people's reactions were, and this was kind of like a main thing here. Like, this says Von Miller off my team, and it was like just an edit of NBA players like celebrating as like a joke. You see like Kobe Bryant in that, like celebrating a win. So basically, people were just saying that like they're very happy to see this, and like I said, he'd been getting paid a lot, and when your stats don't reflect it, people tend to get upset, especially with the Bills having so many issues with salary cap. But yeah, it is important to note that the Bills could still re-sign him, and we've seen McDermott talk very positively. This was a quote in a couple weeks ago before they had made the decision, but he said, "I love Von. The thing I love about Von is he very rarely, if ever, used the victim role approach. He always was, hey, I'm coming back, I'm going back, I'm working on a mentality. He's just so elite. To come off a knee injury, particularly when you're 30 plus, is a challenge. I thought this year was a lot better than the year before, and that's really what you wanted to see," which I do agree with. His stats did increase from 2023, and after an injury like that, it does take some time. But yeah, he is officially a free agent, and if he were to re-sign for the Bills, it would have to be a much smaller contract. And you wonder if NFL players start to put their pride aside, like getting cut from a team. A lot of times, you're not going to want to join that same team. I am happy with this decision considering it saved so much money, but I wouldn't necessarily be mad if the Bills re-signed him. They would just, have to sign him to a much smaller contract, and we'd have to see him prove himself that like he is still like want to be here and he is still going to make big plays for the Bills. I do agree with a lot of people that I'm not sure if he has more left in the tank, and that poll I had voted no, just because of watching over the last couple of years. I've just seen his kind of decrease, but we'll see what happens with that. And this decision does mean that the Bills were able to extend other people's contracts, like Greg Rousseau, who I love. His contract was extended 4 years, along with Terrell Bernard. I feel like those two have been very key on the defense. So I just think this decision, we've been like waiting for this to happen for them to make a major cut like this, because it just had to happen with the way the money was working out. And it's also important to note that the Bills have another player of Javon Solomon, and people were saying on Twitter that it says young player that they think can do similar things to Von Miller. So people are saying that this shows that they have like faith in him, and that they did draft him in 2024. So they're saying that like this could be a time for him to have a breakout year, or other players just to step up. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Von Miller. Like I said, I won't be opposed if the Bills do re-sign him, but I think it also could be a chance for younger players and for the Bills to make a defensive switch. And I think the Bills' defense, obviously it's not as strong as the offense, but people have a lot to say always about it. And I don't think the Bills' defense is as bad as like some people will say, or will they put the blame on McDermott, on this and that. But I think this could be a time for some defensive switches to be made. Like last year was, they had a whole like almost clean out of like their top 3 players. So I think this will be very interesting to see, and we'll be monitoring this in the coming weeks and days. Thank you for watching.